Pietro da Cortona was born November 1st, 1596, and died May 16th, 1669. Formerly known as Pietro Berrettini, and was first hired by the Sacchetti family at age 27, developing his first architectural work, the Villa Sacchetti al Pinedo from 1625 to 1630. He participated in the construction of the Palazzo Barberini in 1626 with the contribution of a theater that was eventually altered, and the design for the ceiling fresco in the Great Hall called the Triumph of Divine Providence. His work on Santi Luca e Martina started out as just extending the crypt at his own expense with permission in 1634. Then in 1635, Cardinal Francesco Barberini, the nephew of Pope Urban VIII, ordered the rebuilding of the church from Pietro's plans. He was also president of Accademia di San Luca from 1634 to 1638 and is buried in the church.
Style is High Baroque, which was between 1627 and 1675 as a time period, which falls into the piece when the Santa e Luca Martina was refurbished. For High Baroque, there were new explorations of form, light, and shadow, and also dramatic intensity with their architecture. So they would take some of the basic elements of Renaissance architecture like the domes and the colonnades, and they will make them grander. And you can kind of see that with the dome here, where there's a chiaroscuro with the way that there's darks and lights and shadows that are implied. There's also a half domed portico and concave side wings that kind of make it resemble a theatrical stage. There's also a bunch of articulated structure, so clusters of columns that kind of give a conflict and resolution feel. So that also contributes to the element of drama in Baroque architecture. And he kind of used a bunch of lavish decorative elements like abundant colors, stones, and metals to kind of give an elaborate and architectural form to make it look very opulent, which ties into function. So for function, the refurbishment of this church was a tool by the Catholic Church at the time to gain awe and reverence with their audience. So they were trying to counter the Reformation. So they were combating the Reformation and the Protestant church with their new architecture that inspires surprise and awe. And so to do this, they involved a lot of drama in the architecture, a bunch of different materials, rich materials, and elaborate architectural forms to achieve that awe factor. Another function is the chiaroscuro half dome portico and the concave side wings that I mentioned earlier kind of project forward from the facade of the church, which kind of fill the tiny trapezoidal piazza.
So the church lies on the papal processional route, which is the blue solid line, and it is also over here in figure 5-2. And it overlooks the Roman Forum, or Foro Romano, which would be down the bottom of figure 5-1. And the church itself is within the red circle. Initially, Pietro da Cortona was just building and extending the crypt, but the discovery of the body of Saint Martina led Cardinal Barberini to finance the construction of a new grand church dedicated to both Saint Luke and Saint Martina. The design was based on a Greek cross with an apse, which are the semicircles at each of the four ends and crowned by a dome at the center. Pietro reconstructed traditional walls, and the columns in each apse are considered to be load-bearing. There are three variations of the conjunction of walls and columns. In the apse, the columns are set in wall niches. In the bays, the columns are set in front of the walls. Under the dome piers, the columns are set in further. And it took a little over 15 years to be completed inside and out. On the left, in figure 6-3, is supposedly what the church looked like before they did reconstruction. The main entrance facade is the only side that looks pretty or decorated. The entrance facade appears to be shaped exactly like the interior, curving parallel to the apse behind it. The facade is contained by two abutment-like piers on each end, which give the curve a heightened tension. The recess between the curve and the abutment establishes a visual link with the line of the Via Papalis, which I believe is to say that the curvature of the facade is supposed to resemble the curves in the Via Papalis, which was the original processional route that connected the Vatican and the Lateran Basilica. All the other sides are very smooth edged and have little to none of the decorative features of the front. The construction of the building was completed in 1644, but there have been reports that the facade wasn't entirely finished until 1679, 10 years after Pietro's death, when funding was stopped after Cardinal Barberini died.
Next, we have the coat of arms and frieze detail. The 3Bs are the coat of arms residual of the Barberini family, and figure 8.1 on the left depicts the 3 Barberini Bs evenly spaced above the entrance into the church, which could possibly count as a mini frieze. And next on the right, we have figure 8.2, which shows the coat of arms atop the main facade. It is supposed to have the 3Bs as well, but they have either disappeared or been removed, so they are drawn in to show what they would have looked like. And then next we have on top figure 8.3, which shows the lower frieze, which is a dedication from Pope Urban reading, Urban VIII Pope dedicates this church to Saint Martina, Virgin and Martyr. And then next we have details of the dome, which shows that it is twice as high as the facade and is adorned with 8 windows on the bottom half. And there are also 16 smaller windows on the lantern part of the dome, which can create a heavenly light at the top of the dome when viewing from the inside.
SS Luca e Martina became one of Crotona's most significant architectural endeavors, demonstrating a massive design style. Crotona breaks many early Christian traditions in the 16th century time period. His planned for and design of SS Luca e Martina had 3 main sections, the upper, middle, and the lower levels. These massive interior designs have left many visitors breathless. The upper church levels, 2 L-shaped rooms flanking the choir, are also altering area as well as the 2 rectangular rooms to the left and right of the nave. The choir arms are longer than the transept arms, providing the church with slightly elongated vertical wings that oriented with the visitor towards the high altar. The entire interior of the upper church in the white stucco is surprising. Other Baroque masters of Cantona's time engaged with the traditions as well as possibly following Paglia's view that white is the most appropriate color for churches. Corona floods the interior iconic columns supporting the entablature, setting the structure in the altering positions so that they appear to make serve visitors of our first impressions. This is a similar manner to Michelangelo's Biblica Lorenzana in Florence. Cantona creates a captivating and awe-inspiring design without using lavish colors or decorative ornaments. Cantona creates the illusion of fluid converse movements to the walls of church without actually using curves offering from the style of the contrapprises. While monochromatic scheme and architectural forms of character choice, the interior vaults are very much loved with stucco. The ribs trimmed with urban 8Bs and laurel, as well as sculpted lilies, cross palms, and symbolizes Saint Martina's chastity and martyrdom. Cortina also decorates the vaults above the altars with sculptured bells, scrolls, and garlands. Cantona rejects color of the upper church. He adored the lower church and St. Martina's chapel with beautiful decorative items. This includes colored stones, metal materials. This effects made up rich materials and elaborate architecture forms. The lower church has a shallow complex, while upper church allows the clearer and more suspicious design based on his intense dedication. Cortona utilized materials such as bronze and marble to create a decorative effect, increasing the chapel with bronze adorned with semi-precious stones and structures.